What's going on, world? It's your boy Kuya P. This is the NRW Nerds Rule the World. Back to do another amazing interview, y'all. Y'all know I love talking to my comics piece, man. I was dipping in it, stepped out, stepped back in it again. It's crazy. And I love comics, y'all. That's what I grew up on. That's what was like my friend as a little kid growing up when, I was as a military kid going from place to place. Those were my one constants. And, So I just will always have a passion and a love for comics and talking to my comic piece, my comics brethren that I share in this kind of crazy world, doing these shows and cons and stuff. I just love the creativity and the inspiration that just comes birth from, picking up these pages of books and just seeing the art and imagining it in your head and all that. And the cat that I'm about to bring on right now, man, I love what he's doing it because as a person of color, we get the rare, it's rare for us to get real true depictions. And when we get it, it's stereotypes and they're just few and far between. So when I can spotlight another brother out here doing it, helping inspire the next generation, I'm so ready to do it. So I can't wait to bring on, you're about to see him in just a second. Let me make sure I remove my pin. Boom! There you go. Omari Malik from BlackTooth Publishing is here. He's in the building. I'm excited, bro. Thank you for coming through. I'm gonna shoot off the air horns right now. Boom, you know how we do the air horns because I'm hip hop. I used to rhyme, I used to do all that. I do the spoken word, and I know my man Omari does a little bit of that too. I saw another interview. We were talking about hip hop where he was talking about hip hop with another cat. It always starts there, right? You know what I'm saying? It's music, it's comics and hip hop, and because I'm an old head, man. I'm a Wu-Tang cat, man. I grew up on that, so that they were doing it. It made it cool to be mixing the comics and the hip hop. I would say so, right?
Yeah, for sure, man. Came through swinging like your neighborhood Spider-Man. Come on.
Let's go. Omari, man, thank you for coming through, bro. Man, again, congrats on what you're doing. You love to see it. Man, I want to know the story, bro. Let's let the people know, man. I know, and I hope it's okay. From reading a little bit about yourself, growing up. Comics are kind of like what helped pulled you through in different ways. But if you can tell me how, like, from picking up that first comic book and from your pops, man, if you don't mind, man, if we can know a little bit about you.
Yeah, for sure, man. Well, first and foremost, thank you for having me, man. It's Omari Malik, aka Big Bank Aaron, man. Brooklyn's in the house, man. Brooklyn, Richmond in the house. So I guess the earliest part to where the story kind of starts is, I like to tell people, I was a marketing person's dream. Like, for some executives that either worked at Mattel or Playmates or whatever, man, they loved me because if you made a cartoon and you had a TV show or a toy to go along with it, I was eating this stuff up, man. So I've always kind of been into superheroes, into things like that. And my pops was a cop in Baltimore, he was a Marine and stuff like that. And my pops was also, he was a part of that 90s boom where everybody was in comic shops, everybody was buying books. So, long boxes were a thing I've grown up around, always digging through them, not really trying to mess them up, just seeing, all the old school, I'm talking 90s DC stuff, Chuck Dixon, the Nightfall era stuff, Robin, when Tim Drake was Robin and all those sorts of things. Obviously, all the 90s cast, the Todd McFarlane, Spider-Man, the Jim Lee X-Men, like, all the Rob Liefeld stuff. My pops had all those books, the Death of Superman era stuff. So I was always seeing that sort of stuff. And, I was gracious enough to kind of be a kid, obviously, the Batman animated series was kind of done because I'm born in 96, but, I was still watching reruns of that, had the VHSs of that, all of the Justice League stuff, was, like I said, always have been into comics and like really into that sort of stuff. And my pops passed when I was like 7, and kind of when he passed, it was like everybody else was kind of taking things. And when I say taking things, like, my other siblings was like, oh, we want the clothes, people want the jewelry, people want this, want that. But it's like the thing that kind of nobody wanted, were all the long boxes, like obviously nobody was getting rid of them, but like, everybody, not saying fighting for it, but it's, everybody trying to get a piece of something, trying to maintain that memory and stuff like that. But nobody cared about the comics. So those I want to say, man, over 10 long boxes. And I'm talking the 3 foot long boxes. They just sitting in my mom's attic and nobody cared. And, I was old enough to where, old enough to go up to the attic by myself and, nobody really telling me you can't go up there. It's too dangerous. But it's like, that was kind of the spark of like, all right, picking up comic books was like, well, everybody wants this, I'm gonna take these. Like, I'm gonna actually, instead of like, just being like, oh, I like Batman, I'm gonna watch the cartoon. It's like, all right, now I'm flipping through these, picking out the ones with the dopest covers and, flipping through it and being like, okay, what's Youngbloods? Let me read this. Let me check this out. Like, just reading all that sort of stuff. Like, I think like the first big series I read was like Robin 2 by Chuck Dixon, Joker's Wild. It's literally a story of Tim Drake, Tim Drake, kind of fighting the Joker on its own. It had all these dope like foil covers and things like that. But that was like the foray from like being 8, 9 years old and being in the comic books. And then I got heavier. Like, it got to the point where it's like, I didn't really have to go to the comic book store for a while. Like, there were so many things to flip through and check out.
Yeah.
I didn't need to go to the comic book store for a while, and I think wasn't until I was like in the 8th grade to where it was like, oh crap, wait, they're still making new ones of these. Like,
Yeah.
and that's when I started harassing my mom. It's like, all right, now, like, I looked it up on Google, like, here's the map quest, like, there's a comic book store, it's like 30 minutes away, and started getting in there, and by the time that happened, that's like the Blackest Night DC era. I've always been a DC kid, like, love Marvel,
Gotcha.
but I'm really a DC guy. So it's like, this is Blackest Night era DC. So it's like, that's the big event. And it's like my first time going to the store, buying books weekly and monthly. And it's like crazy about Blackest Night. Went back to Final Crisis, Identity Crisis. And since then, it's been an addiction, like, and I say an addiction because I've always been into it, but I've had those moments where I got distracted by other things, girls, learning how to play guitar, learning how to get
Okay,
into
hold on.
different
Let me pause you for a second. Because there's some more in there that I want to get into. But
yeah, for sure.
first off, before anything, man, rest in power to Pops, man. You said he was a Baltimore police officer, so he was a real life superhero. Mad love to you, man, and the whole family, for your loss, man. And thank you for what he did for us to still be here, in different ways. They sacrificed a lot, man. So respect there, man. But I see from all of what you're saying, though, like, your nerd cred is official. My man's pulling, Blackest Night, dropping names on me. Like, man, you take me back, because I'm an old head. I graduated high school in '96, bro. So I'm like, man, you remind me of stuff where, like, I was joining the military at that time back in the day, man. So I love it, man. Respect. So you shared that love with your pops, right? So you inherited the books. You spoke on, like, I guess what did you want to do back then? Because I'm curious about this journey. How, like, you went to get your bachelor's degree, your master's degree, then you went into the corporate world. What was those? I'm curious about, like, so you were learning from your pops, got you into comics. You were in high school, like you said, you were discovering girls, and like, too, when I was in high school, I pulled back a little bit because we weren't so sure if the nerd. Especially back in my time, it wasn't cool to be a nerd. Even though Wu-Tang was straight up nerds official, they was fucking Wu-Tang. They was Brooklyn BK. I wasn't from Brooklyn BK. I was living in South Carolina. It wasn't cool to be a nerd in South Carolina. You had to have a nice whip, and don't talk about comics to girls back in the day. So tell me about high school. What was your first, like, goals and stuff? What were you doing back then?
So my earliest dream, man, like, I guess, like, it's I've realized that it's just a thing for people that kind of look like us, man. It's like, first thing, I think the first time I ever told somebody what I wanted to be, man, I probably told them I wanted to be a rapper. Like, that was just like, because this is the first place, like, we see ourselves represented. This is also like, I'm in the MTV Cribs era, so I'm watching Cribs and all that sort of stuff. It's like, I want to be a rapper. That's like the first dream before it's like you really ever think about what you want to do. But then, like, when it was like, I want to say, like, early middle school, and, like, people ask me, like, oh no, but, like, what do you want to be when you grow up? The first things I started to say was, this is also like the Batman era. So it's like Christopher Nolan, And yeah, I'm telling people, I'm like, yo, this Batman movie, he wrote it and directed it. It's like, so, I wanted to be kind of a writer director. And I thank God for like the people in my family for this. It's like, anytime I've ever said I wanted to do something and like I modeled myself over a person that didn't look like me, immediately all my cousins and relatives and family are like, yeah, but what about this person? So it's like, I'm telling them, I'm like, I like Christopher Nolan, like he directed Batman. They're like, yo, but do you know Spike Lee? Like immediately, like before, it's just like, check out Spike Lee. Like if you want to do directing and all that stuff, like you need to know who Spike Lee is and stuff like that. So it's like that was kind of the first dream. And that was like the first time I ever started like creating characters, trying to draw, trying to do this. It's like I wanna write, I want to do comics, I want to do movies, I want to do all that sort of stuff. And got a little bit older. And when I say a little older, like middle school and high school, that's when like I caught the music bug. So, it went from like being in the hip hop and then, getting exposed to like punk rock and heavy metal strictly because like emotionally that's more where I was, like,
Yeah.
You start feeling antsy, start beefing with my stepdad a little bit. So it's like these people screaming, I'm relating to this more than like, Gucci and everybody. So got really into like punk rock and heavy metal and started learning how to play guitar, and like that was the dream. And same thing, like I said, people in my family have always, I'm sitting here saying like, yo, I love Nirvana, I love Pantera, I love Suicide Silence. They're like, but what about Johnny Guitar Watson? Like, what do you know about Jimi Hendrix? You ever heard of Lenny Kravitz?
Mm-hmm.
So, always, putting it in my head to like, do things that are reflective of me and stuff like that. But like I said, pull back from comics a little bit, and like that dream was like really going hard. And I was living in clubs and and any types of concert venues because I was at every hardcore show, every punk rock show, everything. But it's like I never stopped liking comics. Like once I got my first job, like my first job was like at a Taco Bell that happened to be a few blocks from a comic store. So it's like on my breaks, I was always running into the comic store.
The quick dip before and after work or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. So always into it, always like, and even as I was writing guitar parts and writing lyrics, like I've always been coming up with ideas of, I'm that guy that doesn't ruin a movie, but it's like after the movie, I'm sitting here being like, nah, but it would have been way cooler if that happened. Like, yeah, I know that, that part was fire, but like, imagine if they would have did this instead of that. So I feel like I've subconsciously always been writing or practicing writing because I'm like, nah, that was fire. But like I said, yo, if this would have happened, like you remember that character that they just disappeared? Like imagine if they came back, like what a bunch of YouTubers are probably doing now, where they're doing the fan fiction for like animes and comics and things. Like that was me just talking crap to my friends that we go after the movies and just talking crap amongst, band practice and things like that. So, it's definitely like been, and like it's always been there. Like comics has been the one thing that it's like I couldn't have gotten away from or like haven't been able to put down.
But in high school, I'm sure like you, we being men of color, the probably the, I don't know if you're the oldest in your household or younger brothers, siblings, or sisters, but like they want you to go to school. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Art and all that's cool and all. That's a side gig. They don't see us. I'm gonna speak because I'm a proud Filipino, man. My dad's white. My mom's, and in a lot of Philippines, I have another show called ShoPowSho where we talk about just how as immigrants, it's cool to be into the arts, but they just don't want us to do that, not for a living. They want us to be lawyers, doctors, engineers and shit, right? And that's the same with, in people of color households. My wife's Black. And that's what I've with all my fellow Black friends, you know what I'm saying? That's just us. We can't see to make it in the entertainment industry. It may be our passion. We may be talented as fuck and more talented than the cat that was like the shit in high school, but still they don't want us to go that route because reality, we know it's a white dominated world and we want us, and they don't want us to fail, right? So tell me so how it was in high school, because I'm so curious how you came back to it, and then what was the vibe from your fam when you finally came back to it, because you're doing it now, as we see. That's why we're talking right now. So I'm curious of the journey, because I'm sure all these cats want to know how like you broke that. You know what I'm saying? Like how I find myself now doing what I'm doing. I know people love these stories of how they got into this journey, man, because you never quit, bro. You always had that passion, as you've been saying in high school. It's something you've always loved, and now you're doing it, bro.
Yeah, so like I had alluded to, like that was like the beef like with my stepdad and my mom's, and like kind of what drove me into punk rock really heavy is not to say a disbelief. It's like it was like twofold. So it's like on one hand they're like, all right, well he's like into this, so like let's tell him about what we know about. So it's like that's where they bring up like, oh, Prince played guitar, like Jimi Hendrix, this, that, and the third. It's like you want to write, well, Tyler Perry and Spike Lee. But as far as like, they're always in the back of my head, like, you should, like, what are you really gonna do? Like, what's the practical thing here? And always telling me to do something practical. I've always been like a smart kid, like a kid that never really had to try too hard in school, like kind of mostly like an honor roll kid, that just strictly off the strength of like, photographing memory and just doing my work. Like doing my work before I got home, because all I wanted to do was play guitar. Yeah. It's like, I walk in the house, I'm not doing nothing else but hanging out with my friends and playing guitar, because I'd have been in every other teacher class doing homework and doing whatever. But, so, and that was another thing. They're like, yo, you're so smart. You could do this. Like, you sure that you really sure this is what you want to do? And like I said, that was a thing that pissed me off at the time. But like in retrospect, I understand, because my moms ain't know who Dwayne McDuffie was. Like, she ain't never heard of a Dennis Cowan. Like, she didn't know who those people were. And like in retrospect, had she have known, like she still would have been like, how hard that was. Like, like, so I as an adult, I'm not as frustrated or mad or like, oh, like she didn't believe or she didn't push me enough to do it. It's like, it makes sense, from that standpoint, it makes sense. And, like I was really gun ho and like really thought I was going to be a guitar player, like really thought I was going to like be in punk rock bands, like shout out one of my bands, like, we ended up putting out a record like my senior year of high school, ended up getting signed like the summer before I went to college, and had got featured in alternative press. So like we were making moves. But my mom had pushed me to go to school. I got enough money and scholarships to where it wasn't like going to be a financial strain. And I'm glad I did, because I ended up having even more fun in college. Obviously being around the shorties, joining a frat, doing all that sort of stuff, and really indulged. But it's like, I had those 4 years, did everything and enjoyed it, did the extra year because I was having so much fun. It's like, they told me I got to get a master's. And it's like they'll keep my scholarship going, and I can stay here. I can keep coming to the dining hall. Like, I can keep being in my frat. Yeah, I'll do it. Like, this is nothing. So I did that, and bro, once I got my bachelor's, and it's like I had this internship lined up, and I sat there and I was like, holy crap! Like, after this year where I get my master's, I'm gonna be done. And it's like, this internship, they might give me a real job. I don't want a real job. Like, I'm a punk rock kid. Like, what?
Did you at least tie, like, when you chose whatever you majored in college? Did you tie it to, because my creative type of cat, like I went into the military, and then I went into school while I was in the military. But like, did you tie like your degree to assist you with your ultimate goals? Like, does it tie into what you do now, or do you utilize your education to with what you're doing now?
I'm glad I didn't, because like probably, when I say I'm glad I didn't, because it's like I probably would have like been corporate at DC and like pissed off everybody, because I'd have just been asking the right comics the entire time. Like I went into insurance, like I've always been a kid where it's like, even as hard headed as I am, like I'll listen to a good idea, and somebody told me
on your money too.
Yeah, somebody told me, they're like, yo, if you study insurance, you'll always have a job. Everybody needs insurance. Everybody, like, you can't go wrong. So it's like, and as a kid, that's like all I want to do is like write and play guitar. It's like I didn't have a better option, so I was like, all right, I'll do that.
No, but I like that though. You know what I'm saying? So it's like you're honoring your family. You know what I'm saying? And your mom, to make sure that she knows you're okay. That's the biggest thing, is for them to know we're okay. We're gonna go for our goals. We'll never leave those passions that we have, but we'll let them know that, what I'm saying, that we can fall back on that. But and you help them build confidence, and they can see that you're doing it now.
Yeah. So Yeah, that was a big thing. So it's like I said, I did the job, did the internship, got the job, like was an insurance broker for a few years. Well, I'm sorry, even before that, like that summer during the internship, that's when I first started like seriously being like, all right, now like let me use this job. Like it's now or never. Like in my early 20s, like I'm gonna figure this out. I'm gonna figure out this comic book thing. And then once again, I got distracted because those insurance broker checks came through. Started just enjoying life, having my own money and like, having a salary and stuff like that. And it was the pandemic. So when the pandemic hit, even like I said, like I've always been still in the comics. Like that's when I started going to NYCC every year. I'm in NYCC. Like I'm a Funko collector. So I have a gang of Funkos, gang of action figures. I got a
Yeah.
pull list at my comic shop because, like I said, I have a salary job, so I'm fully indulging. But it's like when the pandemic hit and versus just typing stuff in my phone, it's like, all right, nah, I'm gonna do it. Like I'm gonna calm down. I'm gonna buy a few less Funkos. Like all that money I was putting into that stuff. Like,
Yeah.
nah, I'm gonna do this. And I've been an insurance broker, so I know how business works. It's like, all right, I'm gonna get a lawyer. I'm gonna get an accountant. I'm gonna run up this LLC. Like I'm gonna come up with a business proposal of what to do. Like figure out the numbers and figure out what number do I have to leave my job and like do this seriously and like make this sustainable. Like actually make something shake and make it work and have the master plan. So started putting it in motion. Went back to my mom's crib, dug out all the old sketchbooks, and
Was there
and
anything specific other than the pandemic that like gave you that final push, or was it just now it's the time? But like, was it? What I'm curious, what was like the light bulb moment that you know really triggered that, or was it at all? It just
it was the pandemic in the sense of I didn't have anything else to distract me. It's like you
mm,
know. So it's like, yeah, I could keep buying sneakers, but it's like I don't got nowhere to go. So everything, every
gotcha.
other place that money was going, and everything else that I was doing, it's like, versus hanging out with my friends and hanging out with my frat brothers. It's like, yeah, we in the crib. So it's like, all the stuff. I'm not even gonna say they were excuses that were keeping me from doing it, but everything that I was doing in place of like sitting down and be like, all right, I'm gonna write, I'm gonna find some artists, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that. Like all that stuff was taken away. So it
Yeah,
was like,
it's
yeah, what am
time.
I gonna do? Yeah.
Yeah. So what do you what so tell me about the start. Okay, so we make the transition. We're jumping off like uh I don't know if you said you took well no you was gonna be an accountant in school, and you're an insurance broker. So what did Omar Malik know about making comics, man? Tell me, like, thankfully enough, I would say YouTube is a blessing. But like
Yes.
me as an old head, man, I had How to Draw Comics the Marvel Way. Remember my man John Buscema back in the day, right? And then and just studying scripts and films. So were you just like already you grew up on it? So obviously you had the pedigree. Your nerd
Yeah.
card's official. But what did you know about making a script, getting people on the team? Tell me how that was, and educate the people out here that inspire to do the same thing.
So I guess the first thing was, like I said, I've been into this. So I've gotten, shout out to DC for doing director's cuts of books where, and even like you buy any graphic novel, like the back of it will have a script page and some pencils and things like that. So those were the first places running there. I running back to my mom's house. Like I was working from home anyway. So I just went and worked from my mom's house and like pulled out a bunch of old characters and old sketchbooks and like identified it. I don't tell people like I came in this like, oh, I'm gonna have a superhero universe. I just know I had a catalog of stuff I've been working on since a child, and it's like I know that I couldn't just pick one. So it's like I went back, found three or four of the best ideas, and like ran it by my girlfriend at the time, and thankfully, like she was very brutally honest. She was like, "One of these fucking sucks." like she was like, "This guy like trash. You shouldn't do that." And like, just like this idea is way too generic, and like gave me criticism. I'm like, well, she's right because it's like the product is better, but it's picking out those characters and then like you said, like going to buy books, man. Like Alan Moore has a great book on how to write comics. Read that book. Read the I think it's Peter Davis book on how to write comics. The Brian Michael Bendis book on how to write comics, like how to
Yeah.
write screenplay books. Like
VC put out like a whole thing of like how to letter, how to color. I actually have a couple of those in my studio in here somewhere, but
yeah.
yeah.
So
Okay.
reading those, and I think the most important thing for me was I got a mentor, and shout out to
I
my mentor,
Yo,
Greg
you'll love
Anderson.
this. My first cat that read my first comic, Dwayne McDuffie, bro.
Oh, that's dope, yeah.
Yeah, man.
That's
Rest in peace
great.
to my man, bro. Like, just so many words of encouragement. And Joe Kubert, rest in peace to him as
Yeah,
well at the Kubert School. I was sending it everywhere, and yeah, they gave me some words.
yeah. So I found a mentor, and being around indie comics and going to a bunch of different conventions, I was kept running into this guy, and it's like I lived in Brooklyn, he lived in Brooklyn, and I had bought his book, so and I had his card. You get everybody's card, they throw it in the sleeve. I just shot him an email. I'm like, his name's Greg Anderson, LSA.
That's the homie, son.
Yeah, yeah, Greg. Shout
Yeah,
out to
that's the
Greg.
homie. I
It's
saw that
about
I think your mutuals on Facebook with him, and
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
gonna have to hit you up with a friend request, bro.
Yeah, so Greg's my mentor. Greg's a super nice dude, man. So I
Yeah.
just shot him an email. I'm like, yo, listen, bro, I bought your books. You're doing comics. This is what I want to do. Like, can we do a Zoom or something? Like, can you help me out? Like, I need a mentor. I need someone to help me figure this out. And Greg was like super, super nice and like just willing to hop on Zooms because I'm sitting there like, listen, bro, like, I know what I want these characters to look like. I got some scripts, but like, bro, I don't know what to do, bro. Like, and when I say like Greg, like really put me on to the point where it's like, well, if you find an artist, you should ask them for sequentials. So don't just see if they draw nice. Like, you need to set up how often they give you pages. All those like soft things that kind of get lost in the shuffle. Like Greg really
Mm-hmm.
put me on to, and Greg also gave me advice I didn't listen to because Greg was like, yo, listen, focus on one book, man. Focus on one thing. Like, then a third, I'm like, yeah, whatever. I would do fucking all three of these books, man. So just, like I said, talking to Greg, like every time Greg would do a convention and I could pull up, I was pulling up on him, like trying to help him out, just be around and just soaking up all the info I can. And Greg, like I can't love and shout out Greg enough to the point where even like as I did my Kickstarter for my books, I'm like, yo, bro, like, how do you calculate this? Like, how do you lay out the page? Like, tell me what you think about this, and Greg even took me to my first con and he's like, yo, you want to bend with me? Like sharing tables with Greg. And that was like the missing piece. Like, I'm pretty sure like, being a punk rock kid, I'd have bulldozed my way through this, but having a mentor and having someone there that like I could really like talk to and ask all the dumb questions and like avoid some of the missteps was invaluable.
That's love, bro. I love that. Shout out to my man Greg Anderson LSA, man. Dope, 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 bro. So you put it together, you got your team together. And as you see behind me, I'm showing love to it right now. Adastra, am I pronouncing right? Adastra?
Yeah, Ad Astra, it's from the Latin phrase to the stars through perseverance. So
Woo! Nice. I dig that. Dog pile, snake bite. Tell me about each one of these titles, man. Let's start with Adastra that you just gave me some love right there. That sounds dope. Tell me this concept behind that character.
So, like I said, the name Ad Astra, it comes from the phrase Ad Astra per Astra, which means to the stars through perseverance. And, the big thing about that story is, perseverance is, and I say perseverance because it's a story about a 15-year-old girl, she has the power to shapeshift.
Mm.
Adasia, she can be anything she wants, but she's struggling to be herself.
Mm. Oh, that's a
So
lot of woo. There's a lot of substance there. That's just so much right there. And as a person of color living in a white world, man, like
yeah, so and that I based a lot of that book around like my younger sister. Like I went to public school my entire life. My younger sister went to private school, so she was like the one black kid in a lot of those classes and things like
mm,
that. And the same thing with my ex girlfriend at the time that like was helping me with a lot of initial stuff, like the person I was running a lot of these ideas around. Super smart. Like she's like if not the valedictorian, like salutatorian in her high school, but like she went to another one that went to private school, and you and even myself being in corporate America, like a lot of us, we become chameleons. We become shapeshifters and
Right?
code switchers and things like that. And it happens so often, like I said, whether it's in, you know, jobs or schools, going back home to our neighborhoods, being around our friends, like, we speak, everybody speaking English, but we speak in four different types of English. We speak in homeboy English, we speak English. We speak in like little sibling English because you talk different around everybody, and
Yeah.
also doing all those stuff, doing all that when you're at a time in your life where you're also trying to find yourself. So
Wow.
you're code switching, you're moving all
Woo.
around, but you're like, I don't even know who I am. Like, and at that same time, people
Oh,
are like,
that
well,
speaks to my heart, bro. I
you
think,
can be anything. So it's
yeah.
like that's the craziest part is like people are also telling you can be anything while when you're in the process of being anything,
Mm-hmm.
trying to figure out what you are, and people are saying, so what are you gonna do though? It's like,
Mm. Oh man,
you know,
that's brilliant. I can't wait to read that one. That sounds fire, dog. Like we're gonna have to talk more on that one. Let's get to Dogpile and Snakebite too, man.
yeah.
Tell me a little bit about Dogpile.
So Dogpile, it's about a guy that fights crime alongside seven stray dogs, and
Ah,
so this one, it's one of those. For this one, I base it around a lot around like grief and dealing with grief because the
oh,
main character Daquan, he loses his entire family as a child. So he loses his family.
mm,
All he has left is like the main dog, his first original dog, and rather than going into like foster care and going into the system, he just both. He just figures it out, ends up finding that new family amongst the dogs. But he has that idea of remembering his parents and being like, yo, they wanted me to do something good. I have no one here to guide me. I've been figuring it out. I've been pushed to be a leader because I've been encountering all these other dogs, and now I'm trying to figure out what I want to do. And it's like I'm in my it relates to, I don't want to say everything is about finding yourself, but it's like when you're in your early 20s, you're expecting to be where you said you would be. You're at that age where you're supposed to be doing all the things you said you were doing. You
yeah.
have people to look after, which is all his dogs, and they're all looking at you, their guidance, but you're sitting here like, I'm not qualified. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just trying to figure this out. And you have that power. You have the power because he has superpowers, man. Like he can save the world. He can do all this stuff, and he's just trying to figure it out, trying to get it going, and he knows he has a purpose, and he's just trying to live up to the expectations.
Wow. Wow, bro. Like already two fire. Let's see if we're gonna go for a third fire, man, because it's fire right now. This is man, okay. Let's get into Snakebite, bro. That sound you're
Yeah,
killing me with these concepts, man. Like I think everyone's gonna relate with these books, bro.
yeah. And so for Snakebite, man, this is the one that like obviously I put myself in everything, as a good writer, and especially with my company, I want everything to be authentic. But Snakebite that is that moment where it could have went left. And when I say it could have went left, like I remember, when I was learning how to play guitar and I started staying in the house, like my homies started jumping into the streets. Like, like I'm scrambling to get money like to buy a guitar pedal. My homies saying like, yo, dude told me he'll sell me this for this amount of money. Like, I can do this. Everybody started sneaking black and mild, start smoking weed, start doing too much for the first
Mm,
time, and you're trying to decide where do you go in life. So and you make a few mistakes, but you don't want those mistakes to define you. So the main character in this book, oh, he's fresh out of juvenile detention, gets in a little bit of trouble. His friends convince him to get a tattoo. They're like, yo, listen, bro, you home. Let's go get tattoos. We're not supposed to be doing this, but I know a guy that's gonna tattoo him. He gets tattoos. His tattoos give him superpowers. So now he's trying to decide. My homies, his friends, they're starting to gangbang. They're starting to jump into the streets. Everything's starting to ramp up. It's getting there. They're getting serious. The other kids in school, the other neighborhood doesn't like them, and he has the power to like really be a player. It's like if he really wants to go full force and jump into the streets and be a problem, he has everything it takes to be a problem because he has superpowers. But on that same token, he has everything it takes to, go in that different direction. With or without the tattoos, he can start listening to his parents. He can start coming inside. He can start doing things the correct way. But it's that push and pull of like, what do I want to do? Where am I gonna be? And I'm also in this new situation that's like changed everything because now I got superpowers. I got a little bit of a record that'll fall off when I'm 18, but am I gonna stay out of enough trouble when I'm 18? Because I still live in the neighborhood. I'm still around everybody. They still my friends. What am I gonna do?
Yo, bro. You're getting the third fire. 1, 2, 3, 3 fires across the board, man. I gotta tell you real quick, man. Personal anecdote, real quick, bro. It's crazy how, like I told you earlier, I didn't get a chance to check these all out in prep. But I'm loving what you just told me, and now I'm eager and I cannot wait to check these out, man. And we'll tell all the people how they can peep it in just a second, man. But what's crazy is, as I was prepping for you to have this conversation, man, your last name, or I don't know if it's your real last name or if that's just your stage name with what you're doing, of Omar Malik. But personal anecdote, like I said, there was a time back in my, like I said, I'm an old head. I graduated boot camp. I was in the Navy, went to submarine school, and it was in like Groton, New London, Connecticut, if you will. And man, a lot of white people, a lot of big people too. And but at the time, and it was just weird for me because I'm a young Filipino cat that grew up in all over the world, but from the South Carolina, and just was like, like the story of Adistra, we have so much skills and all that, but we don't know who we are yet, right? And fresh out of boot camp, because I didn't go to college, I had scholarships, but that's a whole nother story in itself. Scholarships and all of that for all that I was, but decided to go to the military route because I was afraid. Found myself at boot camp, found myself at sub school, but it was finally when I was at submarine school that I realized, what the fuck did I do? You know what I'm saying? Like, I had scholarships, I had this and the third, and I literally changed my name, or I didn't change my name, but to the people I was introduced outside of the school I was in, when I was just out with the people, I didn't go by my real name, Patrick Strange. I went by Malik because I was a hip hop head. I had a bald head back then, young cat, and big into hip hop, and back then, like, all the rappers, like, their names meant something, like the initials. Malik for me was my actions leave increased knowledge.
Oh, that's a good one.
You know what I'm saying? Because I was trying to find myself, and that's when I saw your name. That I hadn't thought about it in so long, but I haven't just thought about that moniker in a while, but just the kind of person I was in life, and actually with what you were breaking down right now, with how like a lot of these projects are pieces of you in a different way, it reminded me of that, and I just wanted to, just that anecdote that I think these comics are going to really hit cats over the head, man. Because when people put themselves into it, like a good film, a good movie, like, as we all know, when people really know the source material and real show love, like, I don't know how you feel. You did say you're a DC head. That new Flash movie was trash. Because to me, they didn't really, that wasn't the Barry Allen I grew up with. That was more like Impulse, Bart Allen. You know what I'm saying? Because Barry didn't act like that. The real Barry that's been on film is Grant Gustin on CW. That brother should have been the Flash. But anyway, we can go on some nerd shit later. But you know what I mean? You putting your heart and soul into this stuff, man. I cannot wait to see you blow the fuck up, bro. And I want to have you back to talk more about these things, man. But I love it, man. I just got to co-sign on what you're doing, bro. And I feel it, man. Thank you for sharing, bro. How can people check this out? I think you have like a collected version, and then you tell people how like they can get all these books right now.
Yeah, so what's available right now, what I've kind of been hustling is, these are basically the one-shots. I tell people these are the pilots. These are an introduction of what you can expect, and I wanted to do that like any good TV show, man. You just pop everybody in the middle of the story. That way they get a feel and they know what's to come, and that way when I'm in the process of writing and producing, the first arc for each book, so that they can get a taste, so you can get them individually. And because of the comic nerd that I am, thinking about Shonen Jump, or when you think about like Amazing Fantasy or like what detective comics were, they were anthology books, Spider-Man, Batman were one story amongst that. So I have the BlackTooth Battalion, which is a graphic novel that has all three books together, to kind of incentivize people that might be into one more so than the other. It's like, yo, listen, you can buy all three in one book. That way you can check them out. So you can get them individually or you can get them together. Right now, the physicals are on sale on Amazon. I'm going to give you all the links to all my Amazon pages, but if you search BlackTooth Publishing, everything will come up. And it's on my website, blacktoothpublishing.com, if you're interested in the digital, for all my people that like digital books. I'm doing a bunch of cons. People can catch me at cons. I'll be at Fan Expo Chicago, VA Comic Con. I'm at NYCC, LA Comic Con at the end of the year. So outside of around looking starting book dates for 2024. So
let's
gonna be
go.
around, man.
I love it, man. So which of the are they gonna always be like, so you got this first kind of introduction collected graphic novel anthology joint. Is one title going to come out before the other in like single book form? I'm just curious. And is it going to be like each of them ongoing or all collected? To just kind of break that down a little bit for as real nerd heads, like, should I wait to get like the first 4 issue joint, collected trade paperback of Adastra, or you know what I'm saying? What did you have in mind for like that in that way of release?
So the way I'm planning on running it is kind of doing like Netflix. So it's like with each arc, I'll do a Kickstarter where it'll be available however people want it. Like it'll be either 6 books that you can get as a graphic novel, or for my people that are hardcore floppy fans, like you need about 6 individuals, and that's how we're always gonna do it. It's like anytime you get something from BlackTooth, you're gonna get a full story. You're gonna be full. You're not gonna read one and have to wait 2 months for the next issue. Like that first arc, you're gonna get it, you're gonna love it, you're gonna enjoy it, and then when we do the next volumes or the next batch of issues, like it's always gonna be complete by the time you see it.
I love it. All right, y'all. I'm gonna have all the links. Like my man said, he's gonna send it to me. I'm gonna have it when he watches this video. It's gonna be in the description. So you can order it if you're driving right now. Don't crash the car. I'm gonna have it in the description below. He also said it so if you remember it, like my man's got amazing memory, as you said earlier. He can remember shit. So if you can remember shit right now, I'm gonna have him tell us one more time. But if you're driving, it'll be in the description. Go ahead over there, man. Cop these books, man. Show love to my man over here. So let's sign off, bro. Tell them one more time how they can find it. And I got one last nerd question because you are on the NRW where nerds rule the world. I have a regular question. So how can the people check you out, bro?
Yeah, so on socials, you can find us at BlackTooth Publishing on Instagram. BlackToothPublishing.com is like really the home. Like that's where I post wherever I'll be doing cons, all the information. I do books for other people, so whatever I got going on is always at BlackToothPublishing.com. You can buy the digitals on the website. Go to Amazon, search us up BlackTooth Publishing, or search up the individual names of all the books, and we'll show up. And like I said, I'll give you the links to everything. We got merch too, man. We got t-shirts. You can rock some BlackTooth merch for anybody that's interested in that. Man, trying to do this thing.
Okay, I'm next time I ain't gonna acknowledge the bloodline. I'm gonna acknowledge BlackTooth Publishing, support that shit so I can support my man. So everybody, the links are gonna be in the description below. Omar, man, the question I like to leave cast, man, because we learned about people, especially this is your first time through. If you were to give a nerd like a TED talk, but a nerd talk, what could you really go in on that you can't, that nobody can test your gangster on, man? Like what can you really go hard on that you don't think a lot of people know? Well, that not a lot of people know about you, that you can really just deliver on some nerd. You like can go in, and it can't be comic books because we already know that. It's got to be something different. You got to change it up. Can't be hip hop because we know you a hip hop head too. Give me something different.
I'm actually like a Broadway fanatic.
Like shit! I love it.
Yeah, I'm a Broadway.
Talk to me about some Broadway. What do you like? What any show in particular?
My favorite show is Sweeney Todd. I love Sweeney Todd. Sweeney Todd, the Demon Barber of Fleet Street. But like I'm a Broadway cat, man. So I've seen Aladdin 3 times. Wicked, Lion King, Into the Woods, the Michael Jackson play they got going on. What's some other? I've seen so many, man. I saw when Denzel's son was on Broadway with Samuel L. Jackson, A Piano Lesson, which is an August Wilson play. Saw that. I'm crazy in the Broadway.
Have you seen New York? That's playing.
Not yet. So I'm planning on getting tickets to New York.
The producer I just had the producer of New York on like a couple weeks back. Interviews on the channel right now.
Yeah, that's on my list. I recently saw Little Shop of Horrors. Little Shop of Horrors was fire. I've seen Moulin Rouge twice, man. Like I'm a big Broadway fanatic.
I
Like
love it.
so like when I tell you like I'm so nerdy with it, like I hear certain pieces, I'm like, that's Lin-Manuel, like that's literally Stromberg, like, you know, that light motif, like I'm heavy into Broadway.
My guy. I love it, man. Yo, we might have to catch a play, especially when I head up to BK. I think I'm gonna be at New NYCC this year because I think one of the properties I'm working on is gonna be releasing. We're gonna have to connect, bro. Man, it's a pleasure to holler at you, bro. Again, let's have you come through. Let's talk as these other projects drop, whatever you're working, man, or just talk some nerd shit, man. You got a nerd card. You're a nerd card official. I can tell.
Yeah, for sure, man. I'm definitely feel free to reach out to me, man. I'll reach out to you. We're gonna keep this thing going and keep in contact.
Let's go. All right, y'all. My man, Omari Malik, BlackTooth Publishing. Check out all his books. The links are going to be in the description. Go cop them. Support my man. And we'll definitely have him back on the NRW Nerds Rule the World. We're out of here, y'all. It's your boy Kuya P. My man, Omari Malik. We out.